Welcome to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno.
Can demons kill people? Can demons be killed? What are chemtrails?
Hello there, and welcome to the 379th broadcast of Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno. And those edgy questions came from my co-host and partner in the paranormal, my dad. So tonight we're doing an open line show, well, this evening. But before we continue, it's time for our weekly paranormal contest. So last week's question was, in what story by H.P. Lovecraft is the creature known as Vunith? Vunith mentioned?
Well, quite a few listeners got that one right, actually. Perhaps not surprising, because we're based in Rhode Island, and so was Lovecraft. Excuse me. The story was a Lovecraft small novel, The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath. One of my favorite Lovecraft stories, and one of Ben's too, I think. And the winner was Paul Montanaro of Johnston, Rhode Island.
All right, so this week's question is, the movie The Mothman Prophecies, Indrid Cold reads the mind of reporter John Klein and tells him where his father was born. What was the name of the city? So be first to get that answer correct and win a copy of Footsteps in the Attic, my dad's most popular book.
Just to give you a little background on last week's question, because several people asked, The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath was one of Lovecraft's dream cycle so-called stories. His hero, Randolph Carter, who was one of the Boston gentry in the 1910s and 20s, sort of went to sleep and have these amazing dreams, kind of like Ben and I do sometimes, I don't know. And in one of them, he literally sets out on a quest to visit the gods to get them to let him move to this beautiful city he has dreamed about. And he goes through all these adventures. And while he's climbing the slopes of this mysterious mountain at one point in this dream world, he hears this Vunith creature. And there is no description of what it is, obviously some sort of canine, I don't know, but that's where that word did come from. Anyway, if you ever wanted to call in, an open line show like this is a great time to do so. Numbers locally or from Canada, 401-766-1240. From anywhere in the U.S., 800-449-1240.
All right, so now to our emails, which we have, we have plenty of emails.
I got a big, thick folder here, some we've never gotten to. Anyway, this is a question. It's from... I'll just, there's an initial, and then the last name is Rodriguez from Waterloo, Iowa.
Ah, yes. Napoleon must be very familiar with this part of Iowa. I guess you didn't get the joke.
No, what was that again?
I said, I was like, Waterloo, Napoleon must be very familiar with that part of Idaho. Whatever. Anyway.
Well, everybody else is moving there. Why not? Okay, go ahead.
It was... never mind. Hi, Paul and Ben. I love the show. I wish it was on every day. Well, thank you.
Lord.
I'm fascinated... I don't want this on every day. I'm fascinated by the subject of parasites, and I have never heard anyone talk about them the way you do. It really makes sense. My question is this. I know that you, Paul, have been injured by parasites. Is it possible for them to kill people, and have you ever heard of any cases of this?
Well, that's a difficult question. First of all, because it's hard to verify a lot of the stories that might be attributed to parasites, and it's difficult to take if one does come to the conclusion that they could kill you. Looking at it strictly from the multiverse perspective, it's entirely possible. I mean, one of these things could come through and eat New York or something. I mean, there's nothing, you wouldn't think that, given the proper ability to move between parallel worlds, that wouldn't be a problem. However, and Ben, you can compare, because you've been in situations with me where there have been parasites, and or sometimes on your own. And because we've discussed this off the air, but people would probably like to know, what feelings do we have when it comes to these things? In other words, the last time I was really, I might say, semi-seriously hurt by one of these things was in the Bridgeport case of 1974. There have been other times. There was one in New Hampshire in the early 1990s where one I no sooner walked through a door when a big chair came flying through the air and almost hit me, came within inches of my head. But all those times, I got the strong feeling that it was not intentional. Now, I've never gotten any feelings of good intentions from these parasites, who are, if for those of you who aren't familiar with them, the reason or for the folklore that we have about evil spirits, demons, things of this kind. What I believe they are, after many decades of working in proximity to them at times, is that they are life forms that we do not know much about. They exist they're probably not native to our particular reality, but they can reach in almost like an octopus or something
well,
like that.
I feel like it's like this. It's like if a farmer just goes out to his crop and just kills all of it. Just kills it.
Well, why would a farmer do that?
Exactly. So why would a parasite just kill us?
Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah. Oh, that's true, because we're the food source. They seem to feed on. Now, as crazy as this sounds, this is not science fiction. This is what I started running into early on in the early 70s when I started working in this field, and all this stuff about spirits of the dead and all this business being responsible for paranormal events. It just didn't add up. It wasn't good enough, as I often say. There are circumstances as well that led me to believe that these things are life forms that are, again, feeding on our negative energy. Why that is, I don't know, but they seem to do it. They will push buttons and create problems, and you hear footsteps, and you think you're being haunted by somebody you know, and it's not human at all, and it gets very, very entangled and complicated. So, but Ben is right. Why would they kill someone? I have, again, been hurt, and there are those who say that you cannot be hurt by this. That's not true. There have been other investigators whom I have spoken with who have also been harmed. There is a case in the Midwest, I believe it was in Illinois, where an investigator was supposedly killed at one time during, I don't know, I think it was the 1980s. There supposedly is a film based on it. And naturally, these things take on a lot of baggage in the retelling. However, I think that it is possible that people often will, in situations where they're very afraid and they're running, or they're in an area that they're not familiar with, that they could very easily be seriously hurt or killed by tripping or falling, or by running out into traffic, or something like this, because many of these situations can be very frightening. One must keep one's wits about one, and you have to really keep your feet on the ground. But I did, and this is what says the most of it, I really did get the impression that the times I have been hurt, it was not intentional. I was kind of like in the wrong place at the wrong time. And there's also the issue, and I brought this up before, that, Ben, we've talked about this too, that I don't often think that a lot of these things are actually caused by the poltergeists. In other words, when the chair flies across the room. It could be not intentional by the poltergeist, but it could be simply caused by the fluctuations in space-time and the laws of physics that seem to kind of be disrupted by the electromagnetic fields involved in the crossing of the world boundaries by these things. Now, that's a mouthful to say and to think about, but I think that it's, as I often compare it, it's like, running down a hallway and the wind you create knocks the papers off the desk. You didn't intentionally do it. So I think that a lot of these things may be intentional. I think that it is theoretically possible for one of these things, especially one of these that we talked about last night on our CBS edition, one of these calculating elders or wise, for lack of a better term, species that I've labeled them.
Indeed.
Perhaps to work out some sinister plot in which people might be harmed or killed. But Ben, I think, said it best. Why would they kill their own food source? Well, we kill cattle and eat them, but that doesn't seem to be what they do, although I have my suspicions in that direction.
Well, you can live without meat, but it's like...
Well, I know, you're coming from a vegetarian.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, if someone just went to, a water supply and was like, all right, and just poured toxic waste into it, and was like, all right, no water for anyone ever again.
Well, just from a military standpoint, you have to pour an awful lot of toxic waste into a reservoir to pollute it.
Well, my point being is, if we're their source of life, then why would they get rid of that source?
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. They made the idea of death from these things may be their choice. I find that rather chilling as well.
Yeah.
But there have been cases where people have, and not any cases I've ever worked on, but people have been supposedly killed, disappeared, or whatever. Now, again, that could have nothing to do with the parasites
disappearances
directly.
could have a lot of other explanations.
They could. There are many cases where people have disappeared in front of others, and it's been a multiverse thing. I remember the group in England I talked to where they were jogging down a street. The person who was in the lead tripped, fell, was never seen again. Disappeared. Right on the pavement. Never seen again.
Yeah, see, the
police had a lot
like
of trouble buying that story, by the way.
I've never heard any sort of account that says that a parasite could have killed someone.
What feelings have you gotten from parasites, especially that one in Maine? I know we were kind of working on different levels there, but
It made me sick.
Yeah, they can do that. Yeah, they kind of, their presence is very
Gross.
It's very, almost gross, sterile.
It's like,
alien. It can make you sick. It can turn your stomach. Their presence. Their
Pigpen from the Peanuts cartoons?
Yeah.
Sort of like that if Pigpen was really, really negative.
You should have been in that voodoo ceremony that priest took me.
Oh God, no.
Voodoo priest took me to in Haiti.
Ugh.
Well, you want to be is have your stomach turned by the presence of these things. Anyway, so I think that it is, to answer the question here, I think it is possible, but unlikely.
I won't be going to any Samdi things anytime soon.
No, you're too sensitive.
Yeah, no, I'm not into
we're
that sort of stuff.
levels. Okay. Here's one from Marissa in Windsor, Ontario. Okay.
Give it to you, Malfoy.
Listen to us on the great WOMC in Detroit.
All right. So Marissa says to us, great show, especially when you guys talk about parasites! Exclamation
It's
point.
a big subject.
Yeah, I suppose it is. I was wondering if they are as physical as you say they are, and if so, can they be killed, and how?
Okay, so here the opposite question: can they be killed? I would give that a qualified yes. I believe very sincerely they can be killed. Okay, why do I have any indication of that? Now, people think these are demons, spirits, servants of Satan, angels,
they're not almighty.
dark angels. No, I don't think they are spirits. I think they are perfectly physical in their own worlds. The example I like to use on two occasions, especially this one in Bridgeport in 1974, I had a physical altercation with one when I was trying to protect a little girl, and I was unsuccessful, and the thing threw her across the room. But I could feel a body there. I was pushing against something physical, and I could feel a skeletal structure there. And I couldn't really identify it at the time. I had better things on my mind. But I never forgot that experience of the physicality of these things in their own worlds. I can't imagine what they look like. We have several photographs, by the way, of what I believe are parasites on our website, behindtheparanormal.com, and it's the talking points page for last night's show. And last night on our CBS edition, we did an exposition of what we believe is the influence of parasites on human history. There is a question we didn't get to last night.
What was that?
And it's that, is it possible, and this has been touched upon, there aren't too many people researching this field, but there are a few, and we have had several on the show. Is it possible that our species, this is an awful thought, was engineered or created specifically to serve the parasites? Did they influence our genetics? Did they put us here somehow? And as one who believes in God, I have trouble with that. But one still must ask the question.
We have to ask a lot of questions.
The good things God gives us may be in spite of these things rather than because of them.
Yeah.
There are indications that we are bigger than this and can overcome it. But I hate to give these parasites more power or influence than they have, but it is a legitimate question. But anyway, to get back to this one about...
Well, I wanted to make a comment.
I'm sorry, sure.
It's not okay. No, I'm just kidding. No, what was my comment? Oh, yes. So, well, it's not like they're not all powerful. I mean... No. Well,
that's another thing. In the entire paranormal realm, I mean, even with ghosts, you die and you, quote, pass over and you become like this super being, like protecting.
Yes.
That's ridiculous.
I mean, I can see where they're coming
why.
from, and it's a nice thought, but it's like, I mean...
Well, yeah, I don't automatically know everything. And however, looking at a multiverse perspective, you're already in that position. In some of the parallel lives you're living in your subconscious, you do have a lot more knowledge than you do here. Why? Because you're looking at a different perspective. I mean, if you're...
That makes sense. I just wanted to quote... all I could think of was Time Bandits. Like towards
Time Bandits, yeah.
I'm a supreme being. I'm not entirely dim.
Yes, that's right. We can't forget the actor's name. But a very good film if you have a chance to see it. Time Bandits, particularly if you like British humor. Some people don't. But
it's so weird. It's such a weird cat. Sean Connery and like...
Yeah, the interesting cast. You know.
Anyway, the reason why I brought that up was because if the Supreme Being made evil and then evil was like, I'm all powerful, blah, 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 but it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Because, everything has its place. So
there is a balance.
And everything has a weak spot.
That's right. That's true. And so do parasites, and I think they can be killed. There was one case I had in Northbridge, Massachusetts in 2002. I think you were 10 years old. And there were several parasites operating, as is often the case. And one of them, I noticed very clearly, seems to have disappeared. The others, because I've noticed that at times they will fight with one another. They aren't the nicest of creatures, to say the least. And one of them seemed to disappear, and there was a sense of absence, which it just said to me this thing did not just leave on its own. There seemed to be a sense of death there. There have been indications in other cases that enough concentrated energy from us, whether of in the good sense, prayer, love, compassion, directed to each other, can literally starve a parasite. And knowing them as I do, that they get really nervous when they forget their own origins the longer they are attached to us or to our reality. And there were cases in which one just sort of seemed to fade away, and I believe that it died simply from lack of nourishment. And because it was perhaps afraid to go anywhere else, didn't know how to go anywhere else, was attached to a particular piece of land, but could not get any more nourishment out of the people it was trying to farm or use. And of course, people might say, "Oh, the poor thing." Yeah, well, the I don't know, unless you feel sorry for mosquitoes that carry diseases or things like that. I have trouble sympathizing with these things, although we have had our moments at times. I'm going to get into that. But to answer the question here from Marissa, yes, I definitely believe they can be killed and by starvation, or I think they can be killed by other parasites, just as any creatures can be. I mean, their society or societies, and there are about 9 different species of them, are not compassionate societies.
Well, there's other sledgehammer methods too, but we don't need to get on the...
Yeah,
we don't need to get into that.
Yeah, that's true. So the answer is yes to that.
Which should be only done by skilled professionals, so don't just do it yourself.
No, this is something... Well, the trouble is that they often will attack people who are not skilled professionals, and who are you going to call, Here's one from Al in L.A. I take that's Los Angeles or Louisiana. I'm not sure.
Or just his name spelled backwards.
What?
Al, L.A.
Al, oh, yeah, boy, I'll tell you. Hey, you're sharp tonight.
I know, I'm on fire.
Sharper than me. I'm tired.
Sharp as an attack. All right. Hi, Paul and Ben. Now, this case in Connecticut you talk about is really interesting, especially when you talk about effects on the behavior of the population, driving erratically, hitting trees, etc. You have mentioned what appears to be microwave devices in the area, along with strange aircraft flying both high and low. But you never mentioned chemtrails. I'll bet there have been some of those in this behavior scenario, if this behavior scenario is correct.
Well, that's a good point, Al, and I'm glad you brought it up because there have been chemtrail reports in this area, and we have not talked about them on the air. Okay.
I'm gonna be the guy here and say I don't know what a chemtrail is.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, that's probably you're echoing a lot of the listeners too. Chemtrails are, well, simply put, when you look up at the sky and you see an airplane flying at great height, great altitude, you'll see smoke. What looks like smoke coming out. Actually, it's water vapor from the engines.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a contrail.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Condensation trail, contrail. Yeah. All right. And that's simply the result of supposedly the condensation of material coming out of the engine at a very high level in the atmosphere where it's extremely cold.
Right.
All right. There has been speculation, and this is among conspiracy theorists, and we are not conspiracy theorists, though we sometimes wonder about some of the things that go on.
Sometimes we don the hat, but usually no.
Usually not. But the chemtrail theorists believe that these are not just water vapor, and that they can be used to seed the human population with various chemicals that can affect our behavior, and that experiments are being or have been performed on the population by means of these things being spread by aircraft. Now, you can think what you want, but that is an opinion among certain conspiracy theorists. I think it's a little bit over the edge, but who knows? You never know. We live in very weird times. It is true that there is some speculation among meteorologists that these things, even if they are water vapor, will sometimes be seen to spread if atmospheric conditions are right and literally become clouds and cause rain sometimes. So this is an interesting phenomenon, but it's really not the same thing as the government or somebody else, because I don't necessarily think we have to limit this to government. Government may be just as much a victim here as we are, if things like this go on. And there we are with the idea. So that's what the chemtrail thing is.
That makes sense.
All right. Now, the case in Connecticut, that has, now we were there and we were doing a pilot for a television show, and we saw a lot of things that I saw in the military years ago. There were things that looked like microwave transmitters, sensors of various kinds, in wooded areas and farmers where you wouldn't think, what do you need these things for? There had been military activity reported in this area, which is essentially, as at least according to Ben and I, a triangle with the house that was the original site in the case being one of the points, and the other point being this farm where this military activity was taking place, and a third point of the third point of the triangle being a place where Ben and I had some extremely interesting experiences I really don't want to get into now there. But anyway, that seems to be the situation. So yes, strange aircraft have been reported. Black helicopters, which supposedly are associated with UFOs. UFOs have been reported. Ghosts, grays, just about everything but the Loch Ness Monster in this area, which is an area where a number of different, from our point of view, a number of different multiversal things take place. Worlds blend. Realities can be different in certain places. All the neighbors are noticing this. We were in the area ourselves, but we did not get to have the town hall meeting we wanted. It was like something was in the way. But we have done a lot of research there. But yes, there have been chemtrails involved, and if the conspiracy theorists are correct, yes, they may have affected the behavior that we reported, which included people driving in erratic manners, wrong side of the road, inordinate numbers of people one month. When it came out in the paper that this was happening, people started driving off the road and hitting trees in inordinate numbers. Our last report, and we have people in that area who are reporting to us almost daily, particularly one, there have been inordinate numbers of suicides. These are not pleasant affairs. Okay. So anyway, that seems to be it. There could be chemtrails involved, but we just don't know. There have been photographs of them from one of our information suppliers there, and we just are going to have to look further into that and see if there's anything to it. In the meantime, we're going to take a break. You're listening to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno on WOON 1240 AM and ONWorldwide.com. We'll be right back to continue our emails. Stay with us.
ON Radio, ON Worldwide.
Hey everybody, this is the Moose Man. Check out the Groove Line for the best blues, rock, funk, classic 50s, and the Beatles every single week. Tune in Thursdays from 6 to 7 p.m. That's the Groove Line right here on ON.
ON Radio, ON Worldwide.
Okay, and we have a new development in the Kindle department. Kindle Fire HD from Amazon.com. It's the ultimate HD experience. We've already told you about the Kindle Fire, which is the ultimate in your reader, the electronic reader that you want to have for your books, publications of any kind, newspapers, millions of apps and games and movies and everything else you could ever want on your Kindle. But now we have Kindle Fire HD, not only in color but in high definition as well. It's not quite ready yet. You can pre-order it now. It is 8.9 inches, and it's a 4G LTE for $499, and a 7-inch is only $199, which includes Wi-Fi. So check it out. And, of course, there is the original Kindle, if you're just interested in reading, which is only as low as $119 now, or $79, $179. No, it's $119 now. Gone down in price, of course. And you can check that out at Amazon.com or at Staples. And as I always say, you can get 4 of my books over the Kindle. And that is Faces at the Window, Footsteps in the Attic, Turning Home, God, Ghosts, and Human Destiny. Or, if you live here in Rhode Island or are just interested in the history of our interesting little state, check out Rhode Island, A Genial History by Paul F. Eno and Glenn Laxton at AmazonKindle.com or Amazon.com or Amazon Kindle. Check it out. Okay, let's go back to our emails now. And this one is from Helen in Ocala, Florida.
All right, so Helen writes us, "Hi, Paul and Ben. Can parasites appear as actual human beings? You said that they are physical creatures."
Okay, that's another very good question.
That's a really hard concept to get your mind around, isn't it?
Yeah. However, I think that there is a lot of evidence that they can do this. I've always said that the more they are in our world, the more physical they can be. Whether they have and I think some of the older or more advanced species may have the ability to appear to be people on the street or whatever. Now, again, because the danger of this is, somebody you don't like, must be a parasite, or you can really get crazy with this. So you have to, again, always keep your feet on the ground. But the possibility is there. Have I ever run into this? Well, I don't know. I suspect that perhaps there are possibilities in that direction.
Yeah, how would you even know?
What about the Men in Black phenomenon?
I was actually going to say that, but I didn't want to sound crazy, so.
Well, no, I mean, the Men in Black phenomenon, and there have been 2 rather silly movies made with that theme.
3.
3?
Yeah, they made a 3rd one a few months ago.
All right, well, okay. Yeah, you're the movie guy. But the thing is that these Men in Black supposedly show up after UFO incidents, some UFO incidents, and will intimidate people who have spoken to the press, will be polite but advise them that this is not a good idea.
But apparently from some reports, they don't just walk into your house, you have to let them in.
Yes, and that's rather interesting, I suppose.
Indeed.
Well, so I've known people who've been accosted on the street by them. They seem to drive black Cadillacs and literally wear black suits. What's really interesting is that they don't, in some cases, reports have that they don't seem all that familiar with human behavior. I'm thinking particularly of the Mothman incident.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were talking about.
And there have been other cases as well where people claiming to be from the Air Force will show up but have their insignia in the wrong places on their uniforms. There will be the Men in Black will show up, and they will not take their sunglasses off in your house, for example. They will be curious about the most simple day-to-day items like, pianos or little things. And I know at least 2 occasions where one asked if they could keep a pen, and another one wanted to keep an ashtray as just to take with them, as if it was some kind of souvenir. So, I mean, I don't know. But the question is, these certainly could be multiversal people.
Excuse me, but I need your ashtray.
Yeah, well, something like that. Yeah, and they seemed all happy. But does that mean they're parasites? There are parasite parallels with UFO phenomena, in my opinion, many times. And some people are kind of studying that as well. I'm thinking of some of our guests who have talked about this. So I think it might be very possible that certain very adept parasites might be able to appear as human beings. Now, what was it? 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, someone sent us pictures from Anchorage, Alaska.
Oh, yeah.
Of what they said were parasites literally walking down the street. All right. Now, they were not visible to most people, but he and his girlfriend could see them, so he said. And he sent us these photos. Those also are on the Talking Points page at BehindTheParanormal.com for that show, which was about a month ago. It's right below the photographs we have of what we believe are parasites as well. So, again, I think it is entirely possible. Have I ever encountered it? Possibly. I don't really know. I've encountered you encounter a lot of strange people in this field. Now, remember, of course, there are plenty of human parasites as it is. We all know people who literally, they walk into a room and they just drain all the energy, sort of human, vampires, psychic vampires, as it were. People who just drain your energy and take, and you feel drained. And so that's why. They can be entirely human, and I would not put these in the classifications of paranormal parasites. It's just one of those things that goes on with human interaction. So I'd have to give a qualified yes to that. All right, here's one from Gwendolyn in Ocala, Florida. Yeah, it's Gwendolyn has written over the years. And this is Monsters of the Id, she's saying.
Id?
Id. As in Freud.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, the id, the ego, and superego.
Yeah, I wasn't
being the lowest
development.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was like something else, and I was like, oh, great.
Cousin
Freud.
Id.
Dear Paul and Ben, do you remember an old sci-fi show called The Forbidden Planet? Sci-fi film called The Forbidden Planet? Yes, and it was terrible. In this story, because of the atmosphere of the newly colonized planet, the nature of the human psyche, all of the greatest fears of the colonists were being created by the colonists. Monsters of the Id were the stars of the show. As it was explained, the electromagnetics of the planet made it fertile for monster building with our minds. Proceeding with this train of thought, do you think that it is possible that the fireman, policeman, and yourself lifted the refrigerator in the Bridgeport, and that you yourself attracted the chair and TV? That even the EVPs and orbs are projections of ourselves. Do you want to take this a little bit at a time?
Yeah, that's a very adept question, a very good question. Did we possibly cause it ourselves? There has been some speculation that many of these phenomena could be projections of ours. I know that even on these, the TV shows and all the goofy stuff that goes on the tube, there has been some speculation that when someone will have, say, a thermometer, one of the feral ghost hunters or whoever, and they'll say, okay, spirit, raise the temperature in the room, and the temperature in the room goes up, or lower the temperature, or talk into this thing and give us an EVP, electronic voice phenomena, recording of a so-called spirit voice and all this stuff. There has been some speculation that maybe it is the people who are asking the questions who are unconsciously causing the phenomena. That runs back to the whole idea of the old, well, I guess even the current parapsychology approach to poltergeist, that whoever is the victim of the poltergeist is actually causing it, putting out all this energy that forms into this thing almost on its own, and we'll do this. I think that needs to be considered. All I can say is I've been there, done that, and from my personal perspective, I was very aware of the presence of these entities at certain times. This is another thing. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this. When furniture was flying around, or when that TV was flying at me, or when that poor child was being thrown across the room, that last one I'll leave out of this list. Usually, I did not feel the presence of any kind of entity when those things were. It was more there was just raw energy, much as I just described. But when the child was attacked, I had a physical altercation with the thing. It was trying to get around me. It did, and it threw then there was, but in most other cases where things were moving around, including the refrigerator, I did not feel the presence of an entity.
So the Hutchison effect.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if I've even ever talked to you about this, and I never.
No, you've actually.
Even came up.
This is the first time I've ever heard this.
Geez, we live together. We don't even talk about it. Okay.
I don't know. It just never
So I
came
thank
up.
Gwendolyn for bringing this up. It's an important point. However, I still fall back on my preferred theory of why that refrigerator lifted itself up, or why many of these other things occurred when entities did not, at least to my sensibilities, did not seem to be present, was the residual raw energy. Okay? And we may have sparked it, spurred it, prompted it, but I just don't think we caused it. Okay. We have a caller? We have a call. You didn't. You hit the.
Hello?
Oh, hello. You're there.
Yeah.
Welcome to
Be
Behind the
confident in
Paranormal.
my abilities, Father.
I'm sorry. I always second guess you. I'm sorry.
Hi, Bill from Franklin.
Oh, very good. How are you doing? Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good, Bill. Welcome to the show again.
You're talking about Men in Black. I always remember, did you see that Dan Aykroyd, I think he did on UFOs?
I didn't see that. I don't watch an awful lot of TV. I suppose I should. But I suppose it's plausible deniability. People say, you saw that on TV. I know I didn't.
At the very end of that, after he was all through doing it, he walked out of the building, and there was a giant limousine with some guys watching him the whole time.
No kidding. Oh, come to think of it, I think I did hear something about that.
And he said the limousine drove to the end of the street, and it was a dead-end street, and it disappeared and never came back.
I've heard that sort of thing, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That raises the question, what are these guys? Could they be parasites? Could they be interdimensional guys who just aren't familiar with the way we do things? I think all of the above could be possible. What do you think?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not. I don't think it's normal people. I don't think.
Well, they certainly don't act that way. No, they don't.
But Dan Aykroyd really knew a lot about that stuff.
He seems to have done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We ought to try and get him on the show. That would be interesting.
Wait, seriously?
Oh, we're working on Shirley MacLaine. Why can't we get Dan Aykroyd?
I have to ask him about the great outdoors.
But you made me think of that when you're talking about Men in Black.
Yeah, it does, and they're still seen. I mean, this has been going on really since the beginning of the modern UFO age in 1947. With the Kenneth Arnold sightings, and they've been turning up here and there. And it's not just Men in Black in Cadillacs, that Men in Black in helicopters or just sort of showing up on foot. So it's a big mystery, and we have had one or two shows on this. We'll have to look into it further. It's just I've never encountered them that I know of. I've encountered government agents near Area 51 who were none too friendly, but
I've been talking about what I see, to you and Joe. That's about it. But
yeah. Well, Joe always had his story. I always thought Joe. And we're talking about Joe Ferrier, a very dear friend who recently passed, who was a host of the show.
He's the one who got me calling talk shows. Otherwise, I never called talk shows.
Well, you're always welcome here.
Indeed.
Okay. Well, no, things to think about, and thank you very much, Bill.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Bye.
All right. So So again, the Men in Black. But so how are we doing with Gwen's letter?
We're about halfway through if you want to finish it. All right. So she continues on to say, "We believe what we want to believe." You said that yourself.
Yep.
The Exorcist movie helped create some of the greatest monsters in people's minds. We have great untapped power here in our heads. The reason that there are so many suicides is that we are not being taught how to use the wonderful being that we are. The medias of our society block our every avenue to find our way to the power of our conscious selves. Okay. Sorry, every so often I think the phone's ringing, but it isn't. It's just something in my head. I don't know what it is with this building, but I always think a phone's ringing. Anyway, so aside and in addition to the multiverse theory, isn't this another possible misappropriation of our mind's power through ignorance, thereby creating fear, thereby creating monsters of the id? Thank you for unveiling your knowledge and your wherewithal connections to us, or to help us get there, despite whatever problems may have had that tried to stop.
Okay. Good.
Anyway.
Well, thank you, Gwendolyn, for some excellent questions. And of course, the final question being: are these things coming from our own minds in one way or another? Not necessarily meaning
depends
they're not
on who
real.
you talk to.
It depends on who you talk to, or are they independent entities? That's a question I asked myself from day one.
Well, I suppose it's both.
Well, the question is what. Particularly with psychokinesis, the moving of objects by invisible means, or whatever you want to call it, that's a big question. I was involved in some experiments in my salad days where people were in labs and there were people who were able to move really nothing heavier than a pencil. I saw somebody roll a pencil across. This is a renowned psychic. But lifting refrigerators, suspending the laws of physics to that degree, I think you've got to have some sort of multiversal energy involved. You've got to have world boundaries crossing. You've got to have a physics environment where that's possible. Well, I don't think it comes from our own mind, although I think we can manipulate the boundaries.
I believe that the power of faith, it's extremely powerful. Faith is an extremely powerful thing, but I don't think that believing that there's something there would just blow this whole building up. I mean, if I think there's a bomb downstairs and this place blows up, I don't think I blew the place up by having a fear that the bomb is there.
Funny you should bring that up, because in Project Stargate and other military psychic warfare projects are very chilling concept. There were experiments to see if people could, at a distance, ignite flammable material, cause explosions, see what the enemy was doing.
Oh, yeah.
This kind of thing. So all these things are possible. I can only speak from my own experience. And, Ben, I think you have a point. But, again, it comes down to the motto of this show, everything we know is wrong. We don't really know anything. All right? And the longer you get into this, you find some answers, but they lead to other questions.
I see what she's trying to say in saying that, well, parasites come from our own heads, maybe.
Yeah, the monsters of the id.
But the thing
does that mean they're not real?
Yeah, I don't think that's true. I mean, if this stuff's been around forever, and she only mentions The Exorcist and how that could have created all these monsters in people's heads, but there's stories of that going back to the beginning of civilization.
Well, I think the important lesson from what Gwen writes here is that we need to take personal responsibility for us, before we go blaming parasites or
we need to look at ourselves,
politicians or whatever, for our own problems. We have to look in the mirror and take responsibility for our own lives.
Yeah.
When you do that, I think it gives you a certain strength, and that could be the essence of the inner strength that maybe she's talking about. But there are plenty of things we can blame on the parasites, but again, we must look at ourselves first, because we have power, as she says, to overcome these things. I believe that because I've seen it again and again. And it's a simple power. It's respect, which is the foundation of love. Indeed. And that's how you overcome parasites. There's nothing they can do to us that we can't fight, or overcome.
Yeah,
and they know it.
Yeah.
And one of their tactics is to, get you going so that you think they're more powerful.
We're a rather tenacious species.
We are. So thank you, Gwen, for those very thoughtful comments. And write in any time. Okay, here's this is one that little bit long, but we might as well get started with it. It's from
First of
Chris.
all, did we read it already?
No.
Okay, you sure?
Yeah, it came in like last week.
Oh, all right, because usually I was like, if they're really long, maybe we read it already.
Oh, right, yeah, we have to watch out for that. I need to be better record keeper on that. Okay, again, it's from Chris. Does not say where he's from. It came in just a standard. Actually, it came in on Facebook.
Oh, okay, yeah, then.
Yeah, we do have a Facebook page if you're into that, Behind the Paranormal. With
all right, dear Paul, you have given me an answer to something that happened to me about 30 years ago, something that has been a big question mark in my life. At least it is the closet to an answer that I have found. Or the closest, sorry. My mild dyslexia is kicking in. You were on YouTube cast of Coast to Coast and talked about the multiverse. I am so glad you did, and I am so glad I was led to listen. You said there are multiverses where we are different people in different circumstances, and I guess different times or civilizations. If it is possible to cross-connect with another me, quote-unquote me, elsewhere, then I believe it happened to me. Not by me, but from somewhere else to me. I was driving my car, and all of a sudden I was looking in wonder at the stoplight. In my head, for just that bit of time, I was thinking to myself, so that is what stoplights look like. In that instant, I had never seen a stoplight before. I was shocked at what was happening, and apparently shocked my visitor out. Was she surprised to see that I noticed? At any rate, I have wondered how/where that came from. It never happened again that I am aware of, but it got me thinking out of the box and has led me up and down some strange ideas about time and space. A temporary side slip seems to be the best guess scenario right now. I now wonder if we are all interconnected on different levels of consciousness, perhaps mostly so deep that excuse me, that most never can be afraid of another I. What? But if there is a connection, is it possible that when one is looking to expand their understanding, it bleeds over into another self? Could one me get a whole row of me's looking for answers to questions that we never knew existed? That would eventually lead to a whole multi-universal self going forward in understanding. The one who visited me must have known what she was doing and been doing it on purpose. Why? I don't know. I guess for the same...
Why don't we take it from there? All right.
Well, he literally only has like 2 more sentences.
I think it's a she. Go ahead.
She literally only has 2 more sentences.
I don't know. Okay.
Why? I don't know. Blah, blah, blah. And it was I that was talking in my head. Anyway, I wanted to share that with you. I don't know if you have speculated on that possibility before or not. Thank you for your program, Chris.
Well,
all right. Let me say something first.
Please. I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
All right.
You do the whole show yourself in 2 weeks. So
I know. I
won't be here. All right.
I need some practice. Okay. So, the only problem I have with that statement is the use of the pronoun me and I, and pretty much any pronoun used in there. Because it's not about me, and it's not about I, it is about us. It is not different levels of consciousness, it is the same consciousness. And with that, we are all connected, and therefore, technically, if you want to get into it, we are all connected and can be the same person. So at any point in time, I could switch with you, or a guy across the city who's listening to this, hopefully listening to this, or if not, he's listening to something else, or doing whatever. Or switch over to whatever, because I often have had moments like this where I'm like, wow, that's what I look like, or wow, my hair's that long, or wow, my hair's falling out, or other things like that. And I'm pretty sure we've all had those kinds of moments.
There's a psychological term for that. I wish I could think of it.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking
Moments
about.
Moments of awareness, heightened awareness.
Yeah, so it could also be that, well, psychology is a pseudoscience, so I don't really care for it. Any hoodles. So, the whole point that I'm trying to make is to make one go into to step forward into a multiversal self, you must step forward with everybody else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that's well put. It's hard for us in this society to release the idea of the I.
Yeah.
The pronouns you cited particularly. Because we have this sense of self-reference that we think is everything, that we think is ourself. But ourselves are, and she touches on this here, that we are, the idea that we were always talking about. So to answer her question, yes, we're always thinking about this, what she's talking about, and we're always thinking about how it works and how you can use it. To me, my whole career in paranormal research has led to the conclusion that we're not dealing with a spirit world versus a material world. We're dealing with billions upon billions, probably an infinite number of parallel worlds where all possibilities exist. This is speculated about in great detail in quantum physics. And the idea came up probably around 1957 with the Hugh Everett's theory, and has led to much speculation and a certain amount of proof since then. My quote-unquote proof comes from, and Ben's too, comes from being in the trenches and dealing with paranormal phenomena and saying, aha, multiple worlds is the best way to explain all this stuff. Ghosts are not spirits of people, because how can you be you without your body? You have to be a whole... They're people going about their day in different parallel worlds, in where maybe even the physics are a little different. So this gets all into everything we've talked about tonight. So that's what this is about. Question is, what does it mean for you? We have infinite numbers of worlds. Well, do you have a place in those worlds? Yeah. There is all kinds of evidence from our work and from the work of many other people that we exist in many of these worlds. But the question that is prompted by many of the letters we receive, such as this one from Chris, is, are they separate me's? Are they separate you's in these other worlds?
Well, no.
No, we don't believe that they are. We believe that it's one big you, and ultimately one big us. And you look, and we always say that we believe the ancients and our most remote ancestors knew about this. One of the ideas in the African notion of Ubuntu is everything I do affects you, everything you do affects me, because essentially we're one person. Gospel of Matthew. Love your neighbor as yourself. In Greek, the original language, it says, at least the oldest copy that I know about, love your neighbor because he is yourself. A little bit different there. The self, as we understand it, does not exist. With all due respect to the founders of the country and the authors of the Bill of Rights, the individual does not exist. We are unique expressions of each other. So yes, as you grow spiritually, as you meditate, as you pray, I think the essence of what you're trying to do is to find your whole self in all these worlds, because that's where your subconscious is. I think these worlds you're not conscious of, lives you're not conscious of, constitute your subconscious. And in the quest for this, you find God. You are not God, but you are, in a way. It's that's something for another show. But yeah, I think the experience...
Let's not get into the topic of theosis now.
No. The whole idea of what Chris is talking about is a common experience, I think, for all of us. It's not to be feared, but it is to be controlled. Many people I worked with in psychiatric hospitals were diagnosed schizophrenic because they were experiencing other worlds and didn't know how to keep their feet on their ground in this one. And it's an important thing to do. Again, topics for other shows we've already done and for future shows. But thank you, Chris. I think you have you're understanding what's really happening here. No need to be afraid.
Indeed. Okay. What a good email to end the show with. So, let's get to some announcements before we run out of time here. So, this is going to be our last show before my dad and I leave for England. And our public appearance in Woodbridge, Suffolk, England on Saturday, September 22nd. We will present a program on exploring the paranormal with CBS Paul and Ben Eno, or CBS Radio's Paul and Ben Eno, at the Grove House Hotel from 7 to 11 p.m. And I believe that a few tickets are still available at the price of £15 per person. So that includes a full buffet, courtesy of the hotel, and profits will benefit local children's charities in Eastern England. So, this event will take place in the highly active area of, the highly active paranormal area, I should say, of the famous Rendlesham UFO incidents of 1980, and Larry Warren, eyewitness to the events, co-author of the book Left at Eastgate, plans to be with us that evening as well. So for more information and to buy tickets, visit www.spaceportuk.com/events, or just go to our website, www.behindtheparanormal.com, and look for the link to that site under What's New on our page. And don't forget, you can always get free podcasts of all our shows. We have over 400 now. So finally, my dad and I will be featured speakers at the All Hallows Eve Psychic Fair at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Warwick, Rhode Island on Sunday, October 28th. Watch for more info on those events at www.behindtheparanormal.com.
And stay tuned for news of Necronomicon Providence, the H.P. Lovecraft Convention set for August 23rd, 25th, 2013 in Providence. We'll be keeping you updated on that as we go. And again, our website, behindtheparanormal.com. You can buy my books, check up on guests, past, present, future, and get all those podcasts Ben was mentioning. So many thanks to our producer, Ben himself, and next week's show will be a rebroadcast because of our trip. So we won't see you live until Monday, September 24th, when Ben will welcome our good friend Bill Burns of UFO Hunters. I have another commitment that day, so plan to call in and keep Ben and Bill company.
Yeah, because, I can't talk for an hour straight. I could try, though, but you'd probably get really bored. All right, so on a regular CBS radio edition on September 16th and September 23rd in Boston, Pittsburgh, Detroit, and Seattle, they will be rebroadcasts.
Okay. Well, we'll leave you this evening with a thought from American author Kurt Vonnegut. If I should ever die, let this be my epitaph. The only proof he needed for the existence of God was music.
So thanks for joining us on our great cosmic journey, and we will see you next time.
Return to this radio frequency 167 hours from now for another edition of Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno.